So on this channel, you've seen me make things like this for this car to do stuff like this. And that's all well and good, but it's strictly off-road, which has been a little limiting. Now, the channel's got itself a road-based project car. Is it any good? How much power does it have? Is it a total shitbox? Let's find out. Hello, welcome to Making for Motorsport, where we make more, spend less and go faster. So, what is this car? It's a Mark IV Ford Fiesta, facelifted. It's a good old-fashioned hatchback like they used to make. It's light, it's got nimble handling and a zippy little engine. And when I say little, I do mean little. 1250 cc's, which is about 4 cubic inches, I think. All works. It's all here. It's got 4 wheels. It's got a seat and a steering wheel. I reckon it could be a nice little thing to play around with. And it cost me a grand total of £0 and 0 pence because it came from a dear old mum. Yes, Mumsy was upgrading to the latest Ford Fiesta. She liked it that much. And, well, they offered a 200 quid trade-in, which I thought was an insult. So I offered a 0. And, yeah, here we go. So, on that note, she is getting a little upset that I keep referring to it as Project Shitbox. So if you guys can come up with a better name for this little project, then please put it in the comments down below. I'd love to hear it, and it'll make making thumbnails and titles for this series a lot easier. So, what's wrong with it? Well, it's got... for one, I'm glad it's raining, because it looks a little bit better in the rain. It's got the patina of 20 years. It's got some oxidation, should we say, underneath. It's got some active lightweighting around the rear arches, and it has the obligatory chunk out of the steering wheel that no one knows how it got there, even though it's only got 60,000 miles. But as I said, it starts, it drives, it's got 4 months MOT, so it's got plenty of life left in it for us to squeeze out with a few modifications. Whoa, 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 whoa. Why would we want to watch you mod this piece of shit? Anyone could do that. I could do that. Well, my handsome friend, that's entirely the point. Yes, you could modify this. I can modify this. You guys at home can modify this. It's a £200–300 car that costs very little to insure and keep on the road. And okay, you're not going to scream around in it like a Supra or a Scooby or even an MX-5, but you can have a bit of fun, you can learn a few things, and you know what? Have a bit of a giggle along the way. So, I think we should go out and take it for a bit of a spin, see how it drives. He was a handsome fella, that guy. Best keep him away from my missus. So now we've got it out on the road, how does it feel? Well, really good, to be honest. It's nice and tight, there's no clunks or thumps from the suspension, and it's still got that lovely front wheel drive hatchback handling where you just kind of, the front end does what you want it to, it's very responsive, and the back end, well, you could just keep that in line with a little bit of throttle, and you can just chuck it at corners, sort it all out halfway around, and leave hard on the throttle. Now, you'd expect it still be in reasonable nick because it's only got 61,000 miles on it, even though it is 20 years old. And yes, my mum did live close to the shop, so this shopping trolley hasn't done a lot of miles, but you can tell from the clutch that it's been mainly around the town driving, and that's not as tight as it could be or as sharp. But I mean, I've been driving this car since it was brand new and I was only 17 years old, and let me tell you, the clutch wasn't particularly tight then either. And the star of the show is undoubtedly the engine. So only 74 horsepower, it's a 16 valve double overhead cam unit, 1250cc of raw sewing machine power, and yet it doesn't particularly make for fast progress, but you can just wring its neck in every gear, maybe not every gear, but first, second, third, and you know, you're still only doing 50 miles an hour, so you can have miles of smiles with it and really give it a hard time. And you know what, you're not going to be breaking many speed limits or causing many problems, so it's just a fantastic little car for putting a smile on your face. The one bit that could be better, the brakes. They're a bit dull, they're a little bit there's not much bite there. They do stop you, but yeah, they could be a little bit better, inspire a little bit more confidence. Maybe some decent pads would sort that out. We'll have a look, price up some green stuff, I think, from EBC. So, I mentioned it's not exactly fast. Well, yeah, so 0 to 60 by the book on this car is 11.9 seconds. And to be honest, I don't think I've owned a car that slow in the last 15 years. It's not all about going fast though, and I think we can treat the really low performance level that we have at the moment as, let's say, room for improvement. So let's try and replicate that 0 to 60 in this utterly unscientific test. What I'm going to do on my little bit of test track here, I'm going to do 0 to 60 from a standing start in one direction and then straight away in the other direction, and we'll put the two times together and we'll see what they look like. So despite some pretty inconsistent driving from me, we got some fairly close times. So we got 11.9 and 12.25, which average out to be 12.1 versus the book time of 11.9. So there's only a couple of fractions in it. Okay, maybe the book times were to 62 miles an hour and I was going to 60, but what's 2 miles an hour between friends? So I'm not a huge fan of 0 to 60 tests because there's too many variables. If it's a wet day, if it's a dry day, there's the human factor, there's gear changes, 2 gear changes in this car, and yeah, there's too many areas for mistakes to come in. So what I prefer to do is just a second gear pull. So it's a rolling start just above idle, and you mash the throttle, start the clock at 1500 revs, stop it at the rev limiter, and you can see it's very consistent, less than 2 temps between the pulls going in opposite directions. So I'm very happy with that as a baseline for performance. So what are the plans for the car? Well, I think whatever happens, it's definitely not going to stay standard for too long. Now, what are our options? Well, I've got the Speedwino I built in a previous video. I'll put a link up there, but that's still got no home to go to. It's already been bought its first set of individual throttle bodies from a 600cc Kawasaki Ninja. So there's all these kind of things that you'd expect from this channel to put on the car, but there's a whole host of other stuff we can do as well. So what can we do with maybe a turbo? What can be done with a supercharger? Nitrous? Yeah, maybe not nitrous. Injection. Engine swaps. There's a whole host of stuff that we can do. And really, it's the perfect test bed for a bit of experimentation. It's nice and cheap. There's very little money invested in it. So all we've got to do is put the fuel in and buy the bits to go on it. So if you've got anything you particularly like to see done to this car, then please pop something in the comments down below, because it'd be really interesting to hear from you guys. I think the first place I'm going to start is probably looking at if you can fit individual throttle bodies to a car without the ECU, without any wiring changes. So can we take off what we've currently got bolted to the engine, put on some ITBs Will it make it faster? Will it even work? One thing's for sure, it'll definitely sound better. So that's probably the first step. So if you're interested in that, then hit subscribe, maybe even press the bell icon so you don't miss anything. If you want to support the channel even more, then there's the Patreon. I'll put the address down there, and there's a whole host of benefits, early access, Discord server, etc, etc. But for now, me and Project Shitbox say thanks for watching. Catch you later.